Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is Glossy Philosophy. My name is Jansen Bindman. Make sure that you are subscribed to this channel and give this video a thumbs up because today we are doing an Emma Stone inspired liner look that also incorporates a very bold lip, so stay tuned. I've already washed my face and done my skincare, so let's get started with the tutorial. As the weather starts to warm up, it's really important that you start using some kind of a sunscreen, either as a primer, just as part of your skincare. I really like this one from Charlotte Tilbury. I love the texture. I've been using it this whole last week. It gives just a little bit of a sheen to the skin, and I've also been using her moisturizer lately, and I think the two really complement each other. Again, I'm turning 38 in a few weeks, so it just works for my skin. I'm a little bit on the drier side, however, as the weather changes, I do kind of get into a little bit of a mixture between oily and dry. So I think I really love a lot of Charlotte's skincare products. I think they work really well, especially for drier, more mature skin. So now that we have on our sunscreen, we need to make sure that we neutralize the face, especially because we are doing kind of a bold look today. We are doing a bold lip and we're also doing a really great eye. So we want to make sure that everything is nice and neutralized. So I'm going to take the Bobbi Brown corrector and just tap that really gently underneath my eye and into this little corner where we sometimes have some darkness that happens, especially with the changing of the seasons, with allergies, with not enough sleep. Do we ever get enough sleep as women? I don't think so. And just really gently working that in there. So when you have really good skincare that works nicely with your skin type, the great thing is that putting on makeup becomes so much more of a treat because you aren't fighting against your skin. You don't have any traction. It just slips right on. So if you're not finding that slip, you're either not putting on enough moisturizer or primer or other products, or you just haven't found your right concoction yet. So now I'm going to use the NARS Tinted Smudge Proof Eyeshadow Base. What a long name. It's a brilliant product, but it's a really long name. And just, again, really lightly going on the lid and bringing that all the way up to the brow, not putting it into the brow, but just underneath. And then I just kind of grab any extra that's there, and we can definitely go back in with a brush if we need to grab any excess. If it feels like my hands have gotten too sunscreeny or just kind of bogged down with other products, then it's a good time to go in with something really fluffy like the 57 from Sephora or any other kind of fluffy either eyeshadow brush or concealer brush. And just remember, if it's synthetic, you can do whatever you want with it. If it's actual real hair, like you have a brush from a while ago, then you just want to be more aware that picking up creams is going to kind of gunk up your brush, but if it's synthetic, then it doesn't matter. Because we're doing a really simple eye, I see we just keep going on with the complexion and just get a really great base. I'm going to take my concealer, and instead of just placing it directly on the skin, once again, I'm going to be using my ring fingers. So you want to make sure that you have some kind of a towel underneath you, or just some kind of a cloth that you can wipe off the excess with. And then lately I've been liking taking a little bit and putting it down the center of my nose. Not really for a highlight and contour, but mostly because the tip of my nose gets quite red. So anywhere where you feel like you get just a little red, that's kind of what I like. And it just has that added bonus of also kind of slimming down the nose as well. If you already have a slim nose, please don't do this because it's going to make your nose even slimmer. And usually when we have a slim area of the face, sometimes we want to widen it a little bit instead of shrink it down some more. But it totally depends on you, your comfort level, and how you like to be seen in the world. So just kind of play around with it. You'll be able to tell really quickly if you have slimmed something down that you shouldn't have slimmed down, or that you've widened something that you don't want to widen. Now we are going to move on to the rest of our complexion with the Seamless Skin from Lisa Eldridge. I am shade number 9, And all this information is linked below, so if you would like to try out any of these products, everything is always linked below, as well as that flashing bar on the bottom. So I always like to start on my cheeks and just either bounce my brush or start blending into that concealer area. I'm not putting it on top of where I put my concealer because I've already concealed. It's a really good concealer from Giorgio Armani. And I'm just kind of bouncing and making sure that the two products meet each other. They're almost like a similar texture, so they do work really beautifully together. If you are using a concealer and a foundation that don't talk well to each other, that's another reason why your makeup might not be looking the way you want it to look. If you're using a super heavy one or the other, sometimes those products have a really hard time talking to other products, so you either need to thin it out a little bit with either a moisturizer or just put less product on your face and fiddle around with thinning it out a little bit. It doesn't go the same way with thinner formulas because thinner formulas usually talk really nicely to others. They just might not be giving you the coverage that you're looking for. However, it is important to remember that if you're doing a full face of makeup, you're also kind of covering up this area with more makeup. So if you have a lot of pigmentation or anything like that, it's better to go in with a concealer and just kind of spot conceal as you go rather than try to cover it up with a super heavy foundation, because you're going to be putting more products in that area anyways. So just kind of keep the end goal in mind. You don't want to end up with a heavier makeup look than you actually need. And I always found when I was working at Sephora that most of the time women didn't see the end picture. They didn't see themselves with an entire face of makeup, even if it is a nice light application. So they always wanted a heavier foundation, and that was the time that I was working there as well. But usually you really don't. You might need a heavier concealer that you just work in really thin layers. So let's continue on with the cheeks, because I do want to get all my cream products on the skin so that they can just kind of melt together. And we are doing a bold lip. We're doing kind of like a bombshell rockabilly kind of a look today, and you know, you just want to make sure that everything else balances out really, really nicely. So I didn't want to go too crazy with the cheeks. I could have also taken the lipstick that I'm using, which is Skyscraper Rose and super, super pigmented, sheared it out with either a little bit of illumination or some kind of moisturizer and put that on too, and that would have been perfection as well. But I really, really do like the Pixie On the Glow blush. I think it's just the perfect spring, summer blush. So good. There's 3 shades, so you know, make sure that you're getting the right one for your skin tone. And now we're going to fill in the brows, and then we're going to start kind of working on the eyes, because my eyes have had a little bit of time to handle the concealer and the corrector and all of that, so we can kind of go back in and start playing with that. So just really quickly filling in the brows, any gaps. I'm definitely noticing more gaps lately, which is very normal, where we get the less brow hair we have. So it's really important to just, if you want a youthful look, to fill in your brows, not too much, but just enough where you're filling in those gaps, and then comb through. Make sure that you comb through. Otherwise you just end up with a bunch of lines in your brow hairline, and if someone gets a little close, it's like, oh, hello. So now we're going to take our Kajal liner and just do a tight line very quickly. And you can see already that's popped that contrast between the whites of the eyes and the actual lid line. So now we're going to go in with our eyeshadow. I'm going to be using the Cinnabar palette from Lisa Eldridge. It has become my favorite eyeshadow palette. It's just so good. I'm going to go into this medium brown, and we're definitely going to mix these 2 shades. We might add a little bit of shine, but probably not, because I really do want the focus to be on the liner, and obviously the lips are going to steal the show. So I'm probably going to be bouncing between my eyes and my lips for just a little bit, and that is totally fine. You don't have to complete one before moving on to the other. I used to think that, but in reality, when you're doing it super fast, because, you know, we're women on the go, we have things to do, it's totally normal and totally fine to bounce between the two areas of the face. You want to make sure that you maintain that balance. And if you haven't done a look before, that's a really good idea. So I'm actually going to do that right now. So I've just kind of set up the sculpting of my eye just a little bit with my 201. So now I'm going to go in with my Killer Skyscraper Rose, and I'm actually going to take my finger first because this is potent. And again, I'm going to use my ring finger, and I'm just going to dab that on. So it's almost acting like a stain. That is something that isn't talked about enough on beauty channels. You can, just like with your brushes, just like with lots of other products, you can use your lipstick in many different ways. You can take a high potency lipstick and create like a stain or a balm by either mixing it with other products or just applying it differently. If you apply it with your finger, it's going to be a much less impactful look than if you go straight from the tube. Straight from the tube is going to give you the most impact right away. But if you feel like you want to build up or you're just kind of touching up throughout the day, your finger is a great tool. So we have a good kind of sense of what's happening. And now I'm going to go in just really, really lightly, just straight from the tube. And now I feel like I can control the color just a little bit better. Wow, what an amazing color. Okay, now we have this. So now we have to balance it up here with our eyes. So I'm going to go in with my 217 and I'm going to go back into that light medium brown shade in the Cinnabar palette, and I'm just going to build that up a little bit. And I am actually going to grab just a smidge of that slightly darker brown too, that kind of chocolatey brown. Just on the tip of my brush. Because I do kind of want to round out my eyes a little bit, and kind of checking off camera as well, making sure I'm not building it up too much. But I do want to support the wing that I'm going to be doing, because everything has to talk to each other. Everything is supporting something. So the wing is kind of supporting the lip. The lip is kind of the star of the show. The lip and the liner support each other. They're in a good relationship. So we just want to make sure that the eyeshadow doesn't take over all of a sudden. We're going to go in with our trusty Stila. Now this is a new one, and a new one has a mind of its own. So when you're working with a new liquid liner pen, just go very slowly because it is ready to release its liner on you. Following my lower lash line, you can also, a technique that I've been seeing a lot lately is following your waterline. Instead of that, like the top of your lash line, of your lower lash line, follow your waterline instead. And that can create a really beautiful wing angle too. And then really gently, little dashes along the lash line. And we're going to soften that a little bit with the pencil. But again, I'm going to follow my waterline instead of my lower lash line. So just kind of marking it out a little bit, almost like I'm drawing in an extra lash. Our eyes are slightly different on both sides. So just getting that symmetry, especially when you're working with liquid, is very important. So now I just want to soften this just a little bit. And instead of going in with my kajal, I'm actually going to go in with my angle brush back into that chocolatey brown with a little bit of this kind of like graphite brown, and just stamp right on top of the edge. I used to do this a lot in my older tutorials just to soften that liquid line a little bit. And I think just having a little bit of more brown on the lid really takes down that really intense black. So now we're going to go in with mascara, and I've been trying out some new mascaras from Tarte, and one is called Big Ego and the other one is called the Tartelette Tubing Mascara. I'm going to go in with the Big Ego first, and then we're going to go in with the Tubing Mascara. This wand I love how chunky it is. I've only been trying it out for a few days, but it seems to be working really well. So now we're going to go in with the tubing mascara because there's just something about layering two mascaras on top of each other that is just magical, which is why I think a primer works really beautifully because you're basically layering on two mascaras. This one is definitely for lengthening because it's synthetic and it's so small. The other one is nice and fat, so it's supposed to give you more volume. But who doesn't want both? So that's why I like to do two different kinds of mascaras, whether it be a primer or two actual different mascaras. So now everything looks really good. Everything is complementing each other. So now the only thing we have left to do is powder and add just a touch of bronzer because we just need a little bronzer. I'm going to take my 108 into my Hourglass powder because I do want a real skin finish. So I'm just going to powder through the center of my face. And it just takes on the shine just a little bit. I'm barely touching the skin. If I feel like anything's still kind of peeking through, then I can go back in with the second coat. This powder just lays so nicely on the skin. It does have a little bit of yellow tint to it, which is great because if you have any redness, that's going to help with that. But you definitely want to be on the fairer side to use this one. They have lots and lots of different colors. Dim light is a great one if you're just slightly darker than I am. And now we're going to go in with the Charlotte Tilbury Amazing Airbrush Bronzer. So I'm coating my bronzer brush and I'm sweeping under the cheekbone and onto the cheek. Just kind of getting that first, and then I can kind of sweep up and away if I need to. Get along the hairline. And in February, doesn't bronzer just feel so good? I think so. And that is the finished look. Thank you guys so much for watching this Emma Stone inspired makeup tutorial. She obviously really loves makeup and loves to transform her look, either her hair or her makeup, and she goes really bold with her choices. So I hope you enjoyed this. This is great for work, any kind of event, because you have very impactful makeup, but it's not too much. I do fashion videos every Wednesday, beauty videos every Friday. Make sure you are following me on Shorts and Instagram for more tips and tricks to make your life a little bit easier and a little bit more glossy. I will see you in the next one. Bye.